His ex-girlfriend cheated, but says he is her baby's father. And now she's dating his sister? My son, who's 18, has found out that one of his ex-girlfriends is 8 months pregnant. He knows nothing of the sort of her being pregnant until now, and he's just expected to accept everything with no questions asked. My daughter, who's 20, is good friends with this girl and knew about her pregnancy, but said nothing to us because her friend asked her not to. My son was head over heels for this lady, but she ended up breaking his heart by cheating on him and was very needy and manipulative. He spent a lot of money on her because she'd ask for gifts that my son couldn't even afford, and she'd convince him to use one of my credit cards to achieve them. My daughter, who isn't currently living with us and is actually rooming with this girl by her college, is also being manipulated by her and thinks she only does good and doesn't believe that she convinced her brother to use my credit card or that she even cheated. She showed up with my son's ex-girlfriend at my door to help her tell us that she's pregnant. When I saw her there at my door, visually pregnant, I knew she was going to be saying that my son was the father of her child, and I immediately said that my son will not be putting in any money or time until there's a paternity test proving that it is his child. My son actually backed me up and agreed. My daughter was horrified by my comment and accused me of encouraging him to be a deadbeat father and was upset that I didn't even give them a chance to explain themselves. My son's ex started crying, saying that you always assume the worst of me and that she went 8 months of pregnancy alone and the least we could do is ensure that she's taken care of for the betterment of his child. I do agree that if this is his child, we're going to ensure that she's doing well to ensure baby is doing well. But I don't want my son to be involved with her only to get his heart broken again and only to find out that the child isn't his. Am I the jerk here? As a quick update, my daughter and I spoke on the phone and I explained to her that if the baby really is his, then the text will only lock in his responsibility for the baby, and that there's no way I'd ever encourage my son to abandon any of my grandchildren. My daughter finally agreed that the test would be beneficial and told me she'd call back later. I ended up getting a text back instead of a call, asking if they could come over to talk, which I agreed to, and when they came over, my son's ex admitted to not actually knowing who the father was, and that she had been in a relationship with multiple guys, which is why she took so long telling my son because she was trying to figure out who's the father of her child. But she's now certain it's my son. She agreed to do the paternity test as soon as we were able to do one on condition that I pay for it. One other thing I found out is that my daughter and my son's ex have actually developed a romantic relationship, which is beyond shocking to me. I mean, it explains why she's been sticking up for my son's ex as much as she's been doing, but it's just not something I thought my daughter would ever do. I mean, that's her brother's ex, someone who breaks his heart. It's just not something I can understand. I'll always love my daughter, but it just hurts me seeing my son feeling really hurt by this whole situation. So, am I in the wrong here? Well, this is just damn messy. You and your son absolutely aren't in the wrong for demanding that she prove whether it's his. It's only right. I don't know if your daughter would be okay with raising the kid as well into the bargain if she and the ex are romantically involved. That would be a really strange family situation. And yes, if the paternity test does come back positive, then your son absolutely needs to do his part and at least pay child support. Which sucks, being so young, and given how awfully his girlfriend has seemingly treated him and everyone else she's involved with. Sure, I'll keep my meals under $30 as per the policy. I'll make sure it's $30 every single time. For context, this was written in 2021. I do a lot of fly-in, fly-out travel for my job. Usually I'm so busy with work while on site or I'm stationed somewhere with food options I don't want to waste my calories on, and I don't eat anything the whole day or I just buy a coffee. Our employee expenses policy at work is $30 a day, which is mostly fine. But there are some high cost of living cities and sometimes my meals go above that policy, because there aren't many options, especially if I want to eat healthy, which is important when you're constantly on the road. Plus, so many airports have completely shut down their food courts and haven't reopened them yet, so there's hardly any options but fast food. So I submit my expenses one month and I've gone $1.50 over the daily limit, because I treated myself to a coffee that morning as well as a lunch, because I was tired after the god-awful early flight that I had to take. The company had recently changed their policy, and now a different set of people are approving expenses. The previous people didn't mind going over by a few bucks because it balances out with trips where I didn't eat anything. But this new group are absolute sticklers and rejected the expense, citing I was over the daily limit. I tried to argue that I had 10 other visits that month in which I didn't eat a single thing, but they still weren't budging. It really left a sour taste in my mouth. Now, every single visit, I force myself to spend as close to $30 as I can, because screw them. My husband is happy because it means I now bring back slightly squished but free food for him. I feel bad for wasting food, but often I just buy a meal and eat a few bites and throw it in the bin. However, the expense policy is $30 a day, and by gosh, I'm going to stick to it now. While in the past I might have billed $100 for the entire month because I didn't bother to eat, I'm now billing twice or 3 times that. I also used to push myself to keep working all day, but now I religiously take my 30 minutes to go and buy some food, so that's 30 less minutes of work they're getting from me as well. Am I the jerk? There you go, another productive and cost-saving employee driven to being a bitter and expensive one. In this case, actually as dedicated as possible to spending as much of the company's time and money just to spite them. Well done, penny-pinching bosses, you've done it again. All because you just couldn't let your hard-working staff member have a cup of coffee. What will you think of next? I honestly can't see myself going to all that trouble just to get back at someone, but it's hard to classify the author as a jerk when she's literally just taking something she's entitled to under company policy on a day-to-day basis. I don't know how much pressure the expenses people were under to keep staff on budget. Honestly, if they were being pushed on by people from above, I can't really be too angry at them either. But if they just decided that screwing a good employee out of $30 for going $1 over their budget was the hill that they wanted to die on their own initiative? Not cool. And massive jerks. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, linked below. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for outing my ex as gay to get his mother off my back? It's a long and sucky story, but my soon-to-be ex-husband is gay and hid that from me. I found out because I caught him cheating, and he as much as admitted that he knew he wasn't attracted to me that way, but he wanted kids and a, quote, normal life. I don't really care that he's gay, but I'll never forgive him for leading me on so he could use me to have kids. So it's over. End of story. The problem is that his family are fundamentalist nutjobs except for a few members, and his mother is the interfering mother-in-law from hell. Not being related to her anymore is another big plus for me leaving. His family doesn't believe in divorce, so under the guise of picking up some paperwork and other items I'd found that were my ex's, she cornered me about how I'm being childish, and marriage is about commitment, forgiveness, and working through problems. It became apparent that my ex didn't tell his family that he cheated. He told his mum that I was divorcing him because we weren't doing the deed often enough for me. I tried to be patient and explained that he had cheated, and that's why I wasn't going to go into greater detail, because I know how his parents are, and it's none of their business. The mother-in-law's advice, I kid you not, was that men are just that way, and if I wanted to do the deed more and for him to not stray, I should make myself more attractive to my husband and be a better wife. At that point, I lost the plot completely. It had been a sad and hard day already, and that was the last straw. Here's where I might be the jerk. I told her that the only thing that would make me more attractive to my ex would be a sex change operation, and that I hoped he and his boyfriend adopted her some grandchildren so she could finally shut the heck up about it. It wasn't my finest moment, but she just hit the worst and most raw nerve that she could have, and I exploded. It's evidently turned into a huge family drama. He's probably going to be disowned, and my ex called sobbing that I've ruined his life out of spite. I don't really know how to feel about it. I do feel bad for him and that his parents are such awful people, and there were just no good outcomes for him, but I also feel like he made his own bed here too. To clarify a couple of things. 1. There was almost no chance of violence. His family are fundies, but they're not the violent sort. They're more of the Mormon shunning type. One of his cousins came out of the closet and left the church, and after the initial protests, they all just kind of stopped talking to him, and basically treated him as if he were dead until he was ready to repent or whatever. They're passive-aggressive, repressed, and weird as all get out, but the chances of anyone physically hurting him are extremely low, I think. He's not financially dependent on them and has more than a decent job, so he can support himself easily if they kick him out. And 2, he's known that he was gay since before me, so this wasn't a new discovery or an admission to himself. He has a boyfriend that he's been dating since 6 months before we were married. I went through his computer after catching them in the act and kicking him out, and I found messenger logs and other evidence going back to before he started dating me. He literally set this up so he could have the nice Mormon family on the surface to keep his family happy. That's it. He never loved me at all. I was just the first girl to express a sustained interest. As an update, Lord knows I would have had a hard time believing this could happen to me before it happened. But some folks have asked how things were going, and I don't have a lot of places to talk openly about what's happening for obvious reasons. So I thought this might be a good way to get some stuff off my head and update those who wanted to know at the same time. I'm grateful for all the different opinions, by the way. I'm so conflicted about the situation myself, it helps to see other people's reasoning and values on the subject. I feel like I can't trust my mind right now, and writing this out and reading responses has helped me make some peace and move on. I've finally gotten radio silence from my ex's immediate family after the incident with the mother-in-law, so that's a relief. I work at the same place with a couple of his extended family members, so I still have to see them, but they haven't brought it up. They all know to contact me only through my lawyer now, and everything big that belongs to my ex has been passed on already, so anything else can be forwarded through the legal office now. I shouldn't have to interact directly with them, but it's hard to avoid people forever in a small town. My ex tried to break into the house the day that I posted the story while I was at work, and I pressed charges. I don't know how that's going to shake out or why he's doing this, when it can only get him into worse trouble, but I'm letting my lawyer and the police handle it. And I'm staying with my parents for a little while until I feel safer. I don't know what's happened between him and his family, and I don't want to try and find out. My ex, and I guess his family, before the fight with the mother-in-law, spread rumors about me, and it's made living in this small town very hard. It's a tiny community, and people treat me very differently now. The local stake president has been kind, and after being told about the cheating, with no mention of orientation, he said he'd try to help out with the rumors. I don't want to leave the area, but I'm thinking that I may need to, at least for a while, until the legal stuff is over. My lawyer and I have decided to go for annulment, since that will take less time and be harder to fight in this case. Hopefully, the ex won't contest it. I'm glad that we never combined finances. There won't be too many joint assets to sort out. I'll be okay financially still. This could have been much worse if I was a stay-at-home mum or something. I'm going to start therapy soon. I was thinking about it anyway, even before this all came out, because I've been feeling depressed over how things were working in my marriage for a while. I don't want to lose any more of myself and my time than I already have, and I hope one day I'll feel good enough to start dating again. Right now, I don't know. Even thinking about it hurts. A couple of things that I wanted to comment on from responses to the post. I am a Mormon, although an inactive one for much of my life. I don't want the entire Latter-day Saints church to be painted with this brush. My ex and his family aren't typical, though I know there are people like that out there. Please don't generalize about gay people because of this story either. There are LGBTQ people close to my heart, and they would never do this to anyone. I don't believe that outing people is generally okay, or I wouldn't feel so bad about all of this. My ex's family set this up with their intolerance. I wish none of it had happened for me and for him too. Takeaway, I guess, is don't out people if you can possibly avoid it, even if some people see it as justified in the circumstances. It's not good and it doesn't feel good. My name's a little clearer and I'm not being bothered directly by his family anymore, but that's it. Now I get to figure out the next step. This is another really, really messy one, but I think the author's final words kind of summarize the best advice anyone can give. Outing people takes what should be a very personal and private thing out of their hands, and in some cases can put their life in very real danger. That said, we don't know how long the mother would have kept on forcing her way into this woman's life if she hadn't explained that part of her husband's infidelity. In spite of him being at fault here, I do feel bad for the man. He was clearly under a great deal of pressure to conform, and by the sounds of this family and community, he may have had his social life completely upended. If he has a decent, qualified job, it's easy enough to say that he can just go and work elsewhere with his boyfriend, but just having to up and leave the life you've always known is a really raw deal. So I'm going to say that there are a few jerks here, but the real villain is religious fundamentalism. Also, the mother sucks. Imagine hearing that a female family member had been cheated on and telling her to just do more to make her man not cheat as often. It's so twisted. Would I be the jerk if I refused to go to my sister's wedding because I can't bring my girlfriend as my +1? So I'm a lesbian and I've been with my girlfriend for almost 2 years now. My family, including my sister, are all fine with me being gay and they're supportive of my relationship. However, her fiancé comes from a very regressive and religious family, and while he himself is fine, his extended family is very traditional and very anti-gay. My sister gave me my invitation in person instead of mailing it, and explained that I wasn't getting a +1 because having a gay couple at the wedding would likely end up causing lots of drama with this side of the family. All my other siblings have +1s and are welcome to bring their hetero partners. I understand where she's coming from, but it still feels like such a slap in the face. I'm not going to try and force her to give me a +1, but I'm seriously considering not going. I love my sister, but I'm not comfortable spending a whole day alone, while my other siblings are allowed to bring their partners, just because my sister wants to cater to a bunch of bigots. I haven't said anything to anyone yet, but if I do stay home, would I be the jerk? Well, it's their wedding and their choice, of course, but I still say that the happy couple are more likely the jerks in this case for not just telling the family that there are people from all walks of life at the wedding and that if they want to come, they need to set aside their shallow worldviews. And your sister and brother-in-law will be even bigger jerks if they hold it against you for not coming. Yeah, let's just say that it will be a mark against them if they accept your non-attendance on the issue, but they'll be huge flaming pieces of crap if they simultaneously expect you to come, but don't let you bring the person you love. It's a rough one, and I hope that your family can get through it without undue drama. Personally, I'm of the view that they just tell the in-laws to swallow their damn bigotry for one day. Am I the jerk for returning the money my husband took from my family for attending our cookout? For context, my husband comes from a wealthy family, and he himself has inherited a number of assets from his relatives. One of them is this huge house where we live right now, with a pool and a huge backyard with lots of features. We decided to host our first cookout after we got married, 7 months ago, and we invited both his and my family. That was on Friday. Both families came and we had lots of fun, then everyone went home later. I then got a phone call from my mum and she didn't sound okay. She asked whether or not my family took money from his family before they attended the cookout. I was confused and I asked what she was talking about, and she told me that my husband charged every single person from my side of the family who attended the event $25. I was utterly shocked and very angry and felt like this legitimately damaged my relationship with most of my family, because almost all of them came over. Not just that, but he got $275 from them. I was so livid I hung up the phone and confronted him immediately. He told me my family got to enjoy the space and view and said that I should think of it as a resort cookout, since his house has lots of luxuries. I told him it was a horrible thing for him to do, and what made it worse is the fact that his family didn't pay like mine had to. He laughed and then reminded me that his family gave him this house. I demanded he give the money back, but he said no, and that he won't even give it to me since the house is technically his. I went and took the money and gave everyone who paid their money back with a sincere apology from me. My husband found out and flipped out at me, calling what I did an overstep and disrespectful. I told him he shouldn't have taken money from my family for being guests at our house, but he corrected me saying it's his house and said that he'd bet my family had never got to attend a cookout at a house like this, and that it was just $25, but I disrespected him and went behind his back and took money that wasn't mine. We stopped talking after this argument and he keeps venting to his mum about me taking his money that he earned his own way. Is he a jerk? Have no fear, jerky husband is indeed here. In fact, maybe you should have fear because of that. What a piece of crap. It's just a grubby, classless move to try and run a business out of your family that way. Look, if you're not doing all that well financially, you can for sure let people know beforehand that a financial contribution would be nice. But throwing this sort of event and concealing the fact that people have to pay until after the fact is just so Gross. And then he doubles down with his weird twisted logic that they should pay for the privilege of being in your way nicer house than their poor butts could ever afford. This guy really is kind of human garbage, and I can't see how you'd live with him. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories. Or if you want to check out some great music, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, give Am I the Genius a shot. Everything linked in the description.